when we are successfully interacting with matters in this and subjects and objects in this world that are coming from Torah, we are mamshich, we bring down greater lights. We are used to the lights of tikkun, which are lights that are compromised to kalim. But then we are mamshich when we deal with the mem, tzomeh, chai, with the food in this case, of different levels, and we eat it and we process it properly in a divine, as a divine service, we are bringing down into our nefesh and into the world oros from olam hatohu. So today is Beis Nissan, Tafshin Pei Daled. So I would like to bring a little bit about the Rebbe Rasha and his istalkus. We are learning some Hemshech Samech Vov. And then I would like to learn again. I think we learned many months and also years ago at this point, a part of the Verbringen of the Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach, אחרון של Pesach, when he spoke about Hemshech Samech Vov as an intrinsic part of the last stage of the unfolding of the Geulah.C Shleima. So I would like to go over that sicha today again, and Bezrat Hashem, go back to the text as much as time will allow. And thank you, Chama, for preparing the review questions, which we will use to come back to the text. Bezrat Hashem. So at first, I want to speak a little bit about the istalkus of the Rebbe Rasha in the city of Rostov, Beis Nissan Tafresh Pei, which is now today is 104 years ago, because this is Tafresh Pei and we are Tafresh Pei Daled. So, the istalkus of the Rebbe Rasha was Motzei Shabbos Parshas Vayikra, or Leyom Rishon Beis Nissan, 3:30 Lifnos Boker, in the morning. The Chassid, the Rav Chassid Reb Dov Ber Rivkin, wrote at length about the istalkus of the Rebbe Rasha, Reb Shalom Dober, Zecher Tzaddik Elyon Livracha v'chulu. He was ben biased by the Rebbe Rasha, and he was zocher to serve him in his last days. And here are a few paragraphs, short paragraphs, from his book, Ashkafta the Rebbe, in which he wrote about the istalkus of the Rebbe Rasha. So he wrote like this: Erev Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Vayikra, it was 5 afternoon, I entered the room of the Rebbe Rasha, and I saw that his face changed very much, and it was me'uyam, which means his face was scary. It was like a flame of fire, and the eyes were bulging. The doctors stood around him and did everything they could, and with medicine that they knew. They held his holy hand to check the pulse. They didn't reveal to us his true condition, but they already knew that b'derech hateva there was no hope. Lifnos erev, in the evening, gathered all anash in the hall where they used to daven, and they said tehillim, and they asked for rachamim with terrible crying. Shabbos Kodesh, Yom HaShabbos Kodesh, Lifnos Erev, afternoon, in the evening, Dr. Landau said to few of our anash that b'derech hateva there is no hope, and therefore it is his opinion that his son, the Rebbe Rayas, the Frierdiker Rebbe, should be notified. Maybe he will want to request anything from his father or talk to his father before he is nistalik. When Dr. Landau told it to Chakadmov, the Rebbe, Frierdiker Rebbe, the real matzav, the real condition, the mind of the Frierdiker Rebbe did not take it in. He thought it was serious, but not more than that. Motzei Shabbos Kodesh, around 10 o'clock, when the Rebbe Rayatz stood next to his father's bed, the Rebbe Rasha turned to him and told him very clearly, Ich gehe in Himmel, die Ksavim lo sich euch, nehmt mir in Saal, weil mir sein in einem. I am going to heaven. The writings, the scripts, I leave for you. Take me to the Zal and we will be together. When the Rebbe Rayatz heard these words, he was so scared and he was beside himself. And the Rebbe Rasha told him, Hispilus? Moichin. Hispilus, like you're being reactive? Moichin. Immediately, they took him, when he was lying on his bed, to the Zal, to the hall where he was teaching and davening and so on. And from there, he spread his great light all over the world. And they placed his bed in the eastern wall, by the eastern wall of the Zal. The doctors did not move away from his bed, and every 10 minutes injected him with different injections. The crowd of Hasidim all gathered and were davening intensely with pleadings and crying that Hashem Yisbarach will lengthen the days of the Rebbe. And then they added him the name Chaim. I hope I can read the rest of it. They established a Beis Din of 3 that anyone who wished can give the matana, complete matana, and they use the cloth to establish a kinyan, to give a certain time from his life to the Rebbe. Each and every one from Manash gave half a year from his life for the Rebbe. Rebbetzin Sterne Sarah, the Rebbetzin, came in also to the Beis Din, and she wanted to give 10 years from her life for the Rebbe, but the Beis Din refused to receive more than 2 years from her. Around I already cried when I read it the first time. I thought I'm Yoitze. Around 2 after Chatzois, which means 2 in the morning, when the Frierdiker Rebbe stood bent over the bed of the Rebbe Rasha, the Rebbe Rasha lifted his hand a little bit, and his lips were moving. The Rebbe Rayatz understood that his father wanted to bench him, and he bent his head, so the hand of the Rebbe was over his head. After that, the Rebbe Rasha benched him. After that, he benched the daughters of the Frierdiker Rebbe. At that time, it was apparent that the koiches of the Rebbe Rasha are leaving him. His eyes were closed, and his breath was weakened and almost stopped. The Frierdiker Rebbe, when he saw that, he was screaming, Tate, Tate. And all those around, the hearts were torn to pieces. This repeated itself few times. At the last time, when the Rebbe stopped breathing, and the Frierdiker Rebbe screamed, Tate, Tate, the Rebbe Rasha opened his eyes, looked at him, and 2 tears came down from his eyes. And right after that, he shut his eyes. His breathing was weakened, and after a few minutes, there was a certain expression on his face, and his breathing stopped. All Anash that was standing around started to scream with Bekol Gadol, Shema Yisrael, with terrible crying. And the doctors checked with a feather if there is any more breath coming, and the voices of crying and screaming were overwhelming. They covered his face, and his holy neshama went Besahara Hashamayma with Kedusha and Tara, and he left us for Yagon and Anacha. All the Jews of Rostov participated in the Levaya. He was placed in the old cemetery of Rostov, but the year of Tafshin, which is 1940, I guess, the government wanted to destroy the old cemetery, and they had to move the Zion of the Rebbe Rasha to the new cemetery in Rostov. This is from the book Shkafta the Rebbe, from the Chassid and the Shamash of the Rebbe Rasha. So, to get us into a little bit into base Nissan from that aspect.
I just want to say that my husband is from Russia, so he had met someone that was there when they moved the Rebbe Rasha, and he said that it's like 20 years later, the body was completely intact.
If you have the Samech Vov, page Tafshin Mem Tes, Tismach, and Tafshin Mem Tes. It's a piece of the sicha of Achron Shel Pesach, Tafshin Lamed, which is 1970 of the Rebbe. It says in the Zohar, I'm not going to read it inside, I'm going to translate directly, and you'll see where we are. Ita beZohar. It says in the Zohar, ובשיש מאה שנין לשתיסה יספסחון תרא דחוכמסה לעילה ומבוע דחוכמסה לטאטה וכולו. וסימנך בשנת 600 שנה לחיי נוח וגומר נבקעו כל מעיינות תהום רבה. So it says in the Zohar that in the 600 of the 6 millennia, the gates of the Chokhmah, the wisdom of above, will open, and the well springs of the Chokhmah from below. And the sign for it in Torah is 600 Shana L'Chayei Noach. Nivkeu, when they were burst, Kol Ma'ayanos Tehom Rabba, all the well springs of the Tehom. And the meaning of the Zohar Bepashtus is that at that time, says the Rebbe, the Sha'arei HaChochmos Bechlal gates of wisdom, of knowledge, will be opened to all the nations. And the Sha'arei Chochmos HaTorah mainly, and particularly, the gates and new gates and doors to the wisdom of Torah. And so we saw at that time regarding the Chochmos Bechlal, and the science and the Industrial Revolution and so on and so forth. Ubechokmas HaTorah, all the scientific discoveries, the technology discovering and so on. ובחוכמס התורה זכינו באותם ימים לגילוי של פנימיס התורה. And in regarding the חוכמס התורה, we are זוכה to the גילוי of פנימיס התורה. חלק התורה שהיה כמוס וססום מדד. The part of Torah that was hidden until then, which means Kabbalah and especially Chassidus. Because in the beginning, this Chokhmah was known only to unique certain people, very few, and it was known only very secretly and not publicly, and it was well concealed from most of Am Yisrael. And only from the time of the Arizal, beginning from the Arizal, it changed when the Arizal stated that Dafka bedoros elu acharonim, that Dafka in these last generations, mutar u mitzvah legalos zois ha-chokhmah. It's allowed and it's a mitzvah to reveal the chokhmah of the the esoteric aspect of the Torah, the Chochmos HaKabbalah and the Chochmos HaChasidus. Yet, even then, the Chochmos HaKabbalah was not spread in such a manner, in a manner of what the Rebbe calls Yisparnesun. That we were completely sustained by it, like Parnasa, which means it was not internalized. It was not spread and it was not internalized as much until the Baal Shem Tov showed up. And with the Baal Shem Tov and through the Baal Shem Tov, this wisdom began to be revealed and spread b'archava amongst all Yidden. According to the answer of the Melech HaMashiach to the question of the Baal Shem Tov, a Messiah Asimar, when is Master, the Mashiach, coming? And Mashiach answered, when your wellsprings will spread. And especially after this galus of Chasidus Chabad through the Alter Rebbe, until it became Yisparnesun, that now Hasidus can be logically and intellectually integrated and understood into such an extent that now we can call it our parnasa, our sustenance. It's our spiritual sustenance. That means the Torah Hasidus was now invested in garments of Havana v'Asaga, of grasping, of understanding and grasping, which is compared to consuming food. Because when we understand and we grasp, then we are internalizing it. Like internalizing and consuming food, consuming and internalizing food, digesting. של השכל האנושי. So now Hasidus was invested in the garments of the understanding of human mind. Because Hasidus is not human mind. Hasidus is divine mind, enclosed in human mind. Divine knowledge that is enclosed in human mind. And since then, it is spreading in a manner of Mosif ve'olech Mosif ve'or, of increasingly bekamus and increasingly be'echus and increasing light. And that means also that it is more and more becoming more and more our sustenance. And the Rebbe says, it's a question here. The last generations, the time of Ikbusa de Mashiach, when Sukkos David and Opheles fell, our spiritual condition is so collapsed and is so down to the hills, to the ground, to the dust, to the earth. And the last generation before Mashiach is Dor Yasom, is an orphan generation that is disconnected and exiled from his father. כי החושר בו כפול ומכופל. Because the time is, the darkness is double darkness. And I'm assuming that, what does it mean, כפול ומכופל? That one kefil is that it's just very, very dark. But the double darkness is that when we consider it light. So how is it possible that such low generations, next page, will merit such high revelations that other previous generations, even the Tanaim and the Amoraim and the Geonim and the Rishonim, did not merit to have? But this, the Rebbe says, deals with a principle in Torah. What is the inyan klali of Torah? Chazal say that כל מה שתלמיד וסיק עתיד לחדש בתורה, הכל ניתן למשה מסיני. Everything that a skillful student is going to innovate in Torah, everything was given to Torah in Sinai. L'chora, the Rebbe says, it's a question. Since the Chidushim of a Talmud were already given to Moshe Sinai, why, if they're already given to Moshe Sinai, why these Chidush Torah were not revealed before? All these generations, until one day a Talmud Vasik is going to rise and innovate something in Torah. What about all those generations? Why wasn't it revealed if it was given to Moshe by Sinai already? So the Rebbe says that it says in the Torah, in Koheles, the wisest man on earth wrote, Shlomo HaMelech, Es hakol asa yafe be'ito. Everything Hashem said well in its time. Ve'amru Chazal, our sages said, Ra'ui haya Adam harishon shetinasen haTorah al yado. Adam harishon was it was a right thing, it was a proper thing if Torah would be given through Adam harishon. Chazar va'amar, ani noten levanav. Hashem changed his mind, so to speak, and he decided, eventually he decided, no, I'm going to give the Torah to his children. That means that everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, he does at a certain suitable time. This is the Et Yafa. This is the best time for this occurrence to happen. So everything has the time that calls for it. So from that we can understand that until the time comes for a certain inyan in Torah to be innovated through a Talmid Vatik, it wasn't needed yet. It wasn't needed for the understanding or for the consciousness of the previous generations, and therefore it was not revealed. Because Torah is Melashon Hora'ah. The purpose of Torah is to show Bnei Yisrael the path that they should follow and the service that they should serve in order to purify and to elevate the world. And this is the goal of coming down to this world. And since the world did not need yet that level of purification that comes from that inyan that was innovated in Torah, this chidush was not revealed yet. Because every chidush in Torah comes when the world is ready for a change, for a certain chidush in the world, in our reality. And when the time is not ready for it, and the world is not ready for it, and when the human consciousness is not ready for it yet, it's not nisgale, it's not revealed yet. At the right time, when the Talmid Vatik is innovating this in Torah, this itself, the fact that someone discovered or uncovered or innovated something in Torah, this itself is a proof that this is the Eit Yafa, this is the right fine time for this innovation to be revealed in Torah. Why is it? Because the condition of the world is such that this revelation of Torah is needed and a must. And it comes through this discovery of this Talmid Vatik. And so too regarding our subject. All the Giluim of the future, says the Rebbe, Bebias HaMashiach, depend on our Ma'aseinu v'Avodaseinu kol zman Meshech HaGalus. Tanya at the beginning of Perek Lamed Zayin. And it doesn't mean only the avoider of this last Galus. But since Chazal said, Eina mitzvah nikres ela al shem gomra. The mitzvah is called done. Who is called the one who does the mitzvah? The one that finished it. the one that actually finished doing the mitzvah. So even though we are the last end of many, many generations that preceded us, but we are the last ones that are finishing the mitzvah. And therefore, at the end of the avodah berurim of this galus, will end also the tachlis, the purpose, and the reason for all the previous exiles. Because the Geulah from this present galus is the last one. It will not be followed by any other galus anymore. And according to this, it's understood that this avodah that brings to the end of the fourth galus and the Geulah that follows elevates all previous three galusim. So we are now at the last stage of elevating all exiles. And exiles means physical exiles and spiritual exiles. What comes out of it is that Dafka, and since these last generations are the Ikvaseh, the Mashiach, on the last two lines, the years of Mashiach, that in these generations is the elevation and the end of the last fourth galus, we have upon us a greater responsibility lays upon us. And the avodah has to be, next page, Tafshinun Aleph, higher and stronger and increasing way more than in previous generations and in previous galusim. Because the avodah of our generation is the last preparation for the complete Geulah, which means to transform darkness, double darkness, double darkness, to double light. And since HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't demand more than we can, and he requests and expects only according to the powers that were given to Bnei Yisrael, therefore, in our generations are revealed hidden parts of the Torah that were concealed until now, the innermost part of the Torah, that the previous primordial generations did not merit to be given. And through these aspects of the hidden parts of Torah that are being revealed are also flowing from above down special powers for this exalted service, divine service of the last generation before Mashiach. Because Torah is called Oz Vetushiyah. Torah is called Oz, might and empowerment. And it gives koyach to do chayil, to succeed in avodah. More than that, says the Rebbe, in addition to the fact that this great avodah of itself requires special koyach, special powers, it's known that whenever a certain labor and a certain effort is close to its final goal, the klipa and the yetzer hara, the opposing powers, are increasing, and there is a strong resistance coming up from the realm of ungodliness of klipa. And since the avodah of the last generations is mamash nogea to the end, the completion of all the refinements and the elevations of the previous generations, so the opposition of the Yetzer Hara against it is very, very mighty and strong, to prevent anyone who serves God to do what he's supposed to do. And therefore, because of that, in these last generations, we need special strength and special powers in order through our avodah we can fulfill and complete the will of God, then is Ava HaKadosh Baruch Hu lios lo yizbarach dira b'tachtonim, to have a home in our world base. According to this, we need to understand that the way it is generally so, regarding the difference between the last generations and the previous generations, the same thing is regarding the last generations themselves. That in each and every dor vador, each and every generation, the closer you get to Bias HaMashiach, the greater and the heavier the responsibility is. So too, the greater and increasing is the hisgalus of the highest aspects of Torah in comparison to the previous generations. And as we see, that so it is regarding Gilui Pnimius HaTorah, midor ledor, Pnimius HaTorah gets more and more revealed and goes down more and enclosed more and expressed more through the garments of Havana, Vasaga, and Tfisa, through the normal logical intellectual tools that human beings have. And this is a revelation with such addition. This kind of increasing revelation is so apparent, especially in the Maimarim of the Rebbe Rasha Nishmaso Eden, Reb Shalom Dovber, Zecher Tzaddik v'Kadosh Livracha. That in the Maimarim of the Rebbe Rasha, says the Rebbe, the Inyanim of Hasidus come in a manner of an expansive explanation and in a very logical way more than it is so in the Maimarim of the previous Rebbeim. What is known, the Rebbe says, is the saying of the early Hasidim, that the Rebbe Rasha is the Rambam of Toras HaChasidus, because the Inyanim of Toras HaChasidus came in the Maimarim of the Rebbe Rasha in Seder Mesudar, in an orderly, methodical way, in a gradual, step-by-step, building up kind of explanation. Next page. Last page. And with a lot of meshalim, of metaphors that are clarifying each and every subject. And it is understood that similar to what the Rambam himself writes about his own Sefer Yad HaChazaka, וראיתי לחבר דברים המסבררים וכולו בלשון ברורה בדרך קצרה עד שתהא תורה שבעל פה סדורה בפי הכל חולו דברים ברורים קרובים נכונים חולו. So just as the Rambam says that I saw the need regarding his book Yad HaChazaka, that I saw the need, which is so much brought into our reality by the Rebbe Shlita in terms of encouraging us to learn Rambam daily. So the Rambam said that I saw the need to compose words that are very clear in a terminology, in a language that is clear and short, that it should be arranged in a methodical way, in a manner of Torah Shebal Peh, that everyone can understand, words that are clear and close to logic, to the common human understanding, straightforward explanations that will make it easy to follow the laws of God. And so too, the Rebbe says, is regarding the Maimarim of the Rebbe Rasha Nishmaso Eden, that in them comes Toras HaChasidus in a revealed way, in the Dvarim HaMizbarerim, in a way that subjects are being clarified, belashon ברורה, with clear language, דברים קרובים נכונים, straight, well understood words. Gimel, last paragraph, last section. מבין מאמריו גופה, from the Maimarim of the Rebbe Rasha themselves, says the Rebbe Shlita. The Rebbe Rasha himself spoke especially about the praise of Hemshech Samech Vov, because all these milos, with which his maimarim were praised, that we said before, are in a very increased way present, in a unique way present in this Hemshech. So this Hemshech Samech Vov is outstanding in terms of being methodically clear and set up in such a way that דברים המסבררים and דברים בלשון ברורה, בדרך שתהיה סדורה בפי הכל and so on. And not only that in this Hemshech, says the Rebbe, Torah HaChassidus comes to be more revealed and comes down more to be appreciated intellectually and logically. But the shaychus, what is, the Rebbe doesn't say here, I'm saying in my own words here, lahavdil, that maybe even more than that, the shaychus, or not less important, the shaychus of this chokhmah to the Geulah.C, to the final Geulah, which is the reason why Pnimius HaTorah is revealed more and more each and every generation. So the connection between the revelation of Chassidus and the coming down of Chassidus to be in a manner of Yisparnesun Minei, that we can integrate it in a way that our consciousness absorbs it and it becomes part of our consciousness, the way we perceive ourselves and reality and so on. This is more apparent, and the connection to that, to Geulah, this is more apparent in this Hemshech, in Hemshech Samech Vov. As known, said the Rebbe, that the Rebbe Rasha connected the saying of this Hemshech in that year, Tafresh Samech Vov, with the Kates, that according to many Kabbalah books, there was supposed to be a Kates in that year of Tafresh Samech Vov. The Rebbe said it was also a time of praos, pogroms in Russia, lo aleinu, and it was Motzei Shnas Ibo. Benogea lePoal, regarding Poal, according to all the above, that were given and brought down, the Giluim, the revelations and the kochos from above, to transform the choshech kaful umechupal, the double darkness. And Galu leEdom, and when we are exiled to Edom, Shechina imayim, the Shechina is with them. Shenikres b'shem Shechina because shochenes u'mislabeshes toch chalmi, because the Shechina is called so because she is invested and shochenes and dwells in all worlds. That means that even, says the Rebbe, when we find ourselves in the lowest condition, nevertheless, who Yisbarach, Hashem himself dwells with us to the extent of V'shachanti besocham, besoch kol echad ve'echad, within each and every one, individually, personally. And he gives us the koyach to end the galus and to purify the last little packing tanim, last little sparks שעדיין לא נסבררו, that were not refined yet or elevated yet, ולזכוש לקץ שם לחושך, and to merit, to experience that Hashem puts an end to darkness. The Ketz HaGalus, the end of Galus. And then אחר כך, והזכלת דגאולה, the beginning, we will witness the beginning of the Geulah, and then אחר כך לשלמוס הגאולה, the completion of the Geulah האמיתית, of the true Geulah, על ידי משיח צדקנו במהרה בימינו ממש, אמן כן יהי רצון. This is the sicha of אחרון של פסח. We are approaching Pesach, אחרון של פסח, סעודת משיח. אחרון של פסח, by the Rebbe. So Baruch Hashem, we are zoiche to learn Hemshech Samech Vov, and not to chas v'shalom skip the learning today. We even zoiche to have some time left to learn inside, Baruch Hashem. And therefore, let's go to page Kuf Tzaddik in the new edition, which is Kuf Mem Daled in the old edition. We are holding V'kol Zehu Avodah, the Sheshes Yemei Achol, But in order to come into the context of where we are holding, we are thankfully going over the questions, the review questions that were prepared by Ruchama, Baruch Hashem. Number one, what are the differences, the different processes involved in the name of Ban, Gematria, Ban and Ma? So, in elevating the Nefesh HaBahamis. Oh, it's like quite a general question. Okay, so Ruchama is asking, what is the inyan of Ma and Ban, the two processes, dynamics of Ma and Ban, and in the context of elevating the Nefesh HaBahamis? What's the difference in terms of the two dynamics between Ma and Ban? First of all, let's discuss that. Ma is the gematria of 45, which is when we spell out the name of Hashem, where it can be different, the Hey and the Vav with different spelling. This spelling is with an Aleph, Milui Aleph. So the Hey will be Hey Aleph, and the Vav will be spelled Vav Aleph Vav. Then the gematria of Yud Kei Vav Kei in that case will be 45. Shem Ma, which is gematria Adam. And then Shem Ban is when Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei is spelled out in a doubled way, that Hey is spelled out Hey Hey, and Vav is spelled out Vav Vav, and then the gematria will be 52. And that is Shem Ban, which is gematria Behema. Now, what's the difference between the dynamic of Shem Ma and Shem Ban? One way to describe it, as we described it last time, is the difference between Ratzov Vashov.
Right.
The Shem Ma is the dynamic of going up, which means being subsumed in the infinite, losing one's metzius, he said. And Shem Ban is the way Elokus comes down into the world. And that means that Shuv. And that means that in Shem Ma, worlds lose their metzius. In Shem Ban, worlds don't lose their metzius. Verkehrt. Worlds have to exist there in order for Elokus to come down into worlds. So worlds have a metzius. So now if and into this metzius, we're mamshich Elokus. Elokus, godliness is revealed. Okay, we said last time that what is revealed depends. So usually we're talking about aspect of Elokus that is tailored to the capacity of each world to perceive. Regarding Bitul, the Bitul of Adam, the Bitul of Ma, is called in regarding Avodah in Hasidus, it's called Bitul b'Metzius. It's a Bitul is a self-nullification that involves losing one's own self in the infinite, in the higher, in the beyond. And the Bitul of Ban, the Bitul of Behema, or the Bitul of the Nefesh HaBahamis, the Nefesh HaBahamis itself cannot experience Bitul b'Metzius. And therefore the Bitul of the Nefesh HaBahamis is the Bitul HaYesh. What does it mean? That there is a Yesh, and the Yesh subjugates itself to the higher. That means basically Skafia. What we learned in the previous paragraph, previous year, that how can the Nefesh HaBahamis, I'm jumping ahead, but how can the Nefesh HaBahamis reach Bitul b'Metzius? Only through the Nefesh HaElokis. And that is expressed in Kriyas Shema itself, where the Nefesh HaElokis brings the Tzech. What is Tefillah? Tefillah is using the Seichel, Nefesh HaSichlis, which is a common thing. It's something that through which the Nefesh HaElokis can talk to the Nefesh HaBahamis, through the intellect, the intellectual soul. So Tefillah is how the Nefesh HaElokis talks to the Nefesh HaBahamis through the Nefesh HaSichlis. And when we get to Shema, until the brach, until and including the brachas of Shema, before Shema. We learn how the Nefesh HaBahamis itself is through, with its seichel, with its intellect, is reflecting on the Elokus that is in this world. And all the way how up to the appreciation of Elokus that is shaykh to this world of the angels, yes. And by that, the Nefesh HaBahamis gets to Bitul HaYesh. Okay, now it doesn't want to subjugate itself anymore to the temptations of the world. It wants to subjugate itself to Hashem, just as its source, the Malachim, do. Subjugate themselves, at least to Malchus of Atzilus, as we will learn. But then, in order to reach Bitul B'Metzius, we need Shema. And that is already the experience of the Nefesh HaElokis. When the Nefesh HaElokis is expressing its oneness with God, that is affecting the Nefesh HaBahamis, that is the Nefesh HaBahamis has a chance to also experience Bitul B'Metzius as well. So let's see what we covered here. How these processes are changed once we introduce the godly soul. Okay.
That's what you just answered.
Okay. 3.
Because without it, it's limited. It can't go very well. It just stays stuck in some ways.
Yes.
Right? And then
because only, why? Because how high can the Nefesh HaBahamis reach? It can reach only Shem Elokim. That's what the Malachim appreciate, right? Malchus. And even Malchus of Atzilus will learn that Malachim are so overwhelmed because even Malchus of Atzilus, which is their shoresh, it's only the external aspect of Malchus that they can grasp. But the internal aspect of Malchus, the way she is part of Atzilus, that's also Kadosh. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. That's also above. It's beyond. Nisgav Shmo Levado. His name is Nisgav. Malchus is Nisgav. Really, Malchus be'etzem, Malchus in relation to herself, to itself, is Nisgav, is beyond, say the Malachim. It's only Hodo al Eretz v'Shamayim. Only a dinner for Malchus, as we said last time, is upon Eretz v'Shamayim, not even in this Eretz, because we don't see Elokus. But in Gan Eden, there is Gilui Elokus. Eretz v'Shamayim, Gan Eden HaTachton, Gan Eden HaElyon, there is Gilui Elokus. But it's only from external aspect of Malchus. That is
that's why we also, yeah.
Excuse me, Yochama?
Is this why the ash is so important? The burning with the ash is so important, right?
And therefore, the ash here, yes, there is an inflamed ash until Shema, but the ash of Elokim is not ash Havayah.
Right.
It is ash that is limited, connected to Malchus Elokim. The way godliness, and so is conceived already. However, ash Havayah, that's the ash of the Nefesh HaElokis. Esh Havayah means HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Zoh, higher than Malchus, the infinite, totally beyond world, higher than Malchus as well, is called Esh Havayah. And therefore the Zohar says, Is Esh ve'is Esh. There is Esh, but lo Esh Havayah. That's the Esh of the Nefesh HaBahamis that reaches Bitul HaYesh. It's a flame, it's Rish Pe'esh the Malachim. But that's Meshem Elokim, says the Rebbe. That's Shayach Le'olamos. And then there is Eish Be'esh Havayah. This is the Tashalheves Yudke of the Nefesh HaBahamis, that this is the fire that is born out of his boinanus on Atzmus Or Ein Sof. Or Ein Sof itself. Not in connection to worlds altogether. And that's the aspect of Eish Havayah, which is Shema. And the experience there is a Ratzo. It's just losing oneself in the infinite. And then when the Nefesh HaElokis is experiencing this fire, then in this fire, Nisraf v'nichle, burns away and consumed also the Nefesh HaBahamis in a complete Bitul B'Metzius. And this is what it means that Shema is mevarer שם מה מברר what is already מבורר על ידי שם בן. So first of all, שם בן is the recognition of the godliness that is the source of a world. אלוקים. איש אלוקים. So that's the first biru of Nefesh HaBahamis can do. Create the yichud with its source in Malchus of Atzilus. And then comes שם מה, שמברר מה שכבר מבורר על איזה שם בן. Then comes שם מה, הקדוש ברוך הוא beyond worlds, or in sof in relation to itself, and it elevates שם בן. It elevates the light of the fire of Elokim, and now it becomes fire of Havai, without any tzimtzumim. And this is עולה להוואי בבחינת ביטול לגמרי. And now, both the Nefesh HaElokis and the Nefesh HaBahamis עולה, ascend to Havai in a manner of complete ביטול במציאות. This is the process of tefillah. Now number
3 or 4.
How does our dining table become a mizbeach and our eating divine like the eating of a Kohen? The Rebbe is teaching us that eating is like davening. And our davening is connected korbanot, right? So davening is connected with the mizbeach, isn't it? Because davening was established corresponding to the sacrifices, right? When we elevate Nefesh HaBahamis. This is the purpose of the Nefesh HaElokis coming down to be enclosed in Nefesh HaBahamis to refine it and the body, right? So how, now the Rebbe says that eating is like davening. And therefore our shulchan is called mizbeach. Our table is called an altar.
But the korbanos, we also have 2 levels. We have achilas hamizbeach, it's consumed by the mizbeach, and achilas kohanim. So when the kohanim eat, we are being atoned. So achilas hamizbeach, the Rebbe said, corresponds to ban, and achilas kohanim correspond to shema. And that's the avodah for tzaddik when he eats. So there are 2 levels. The avodah of eating is called the war. Is the war in the world, this war that we're trying to accomplish on a higher level in tefillah, with our godliness, with our spiritual part.
Both, the Zohar calls both tefillah, davening, prayer, and eating, the Zohar called a war time. That we're eating our bread as a war, and the time of sloisa, of davening, says the Zohar, is a time of krava, of a battle. Since we are dealing with creations that their source is in Tohu, like Domem, Tzomea, Chai, man comes from Tikkun. Everything else in this world comes from Tohu, and we consume everything else. Domem, Tzomea, Chai. We had a discussion if it's Domem, Chai, Tzomeach and Chai, or Dram Domem, Sterne last time, but bottom line is that the achila of Shem Ma is mechaper, is like the shulchan that's mechaper, it atones for our disconnections. How so? Because, as Sterne mentioned, when we are elevating, when we are successfully interacting with matters in this, and subjects and objects in this world that are coming from Torah, we are mamshich, we bring down greater lights that we are used to. We are used to the lights of Tikkun, which are lights that are compromised to Kalim. But then we are mamshich when we deal with the mem, tzomea, chai, with the food in this case, of different levels, and we eat it and we process it properly as a divine service, we are bringing down into our nefesh and into the world oros from olam hatohu. And from olam hatohu comes forgiveness. This is a world that doesn't operate on cause and effect. So if you sin, you have to be, God forbid, bear the consequences. Olam hatohu is
oneness.
Now it's chofan b'tchilatan. It's all one thing. It's like a circle, igulim.
Right.
And therefore, is shulchan shel adam mechaper. Just as the altar is mechaper atones, so too shulchan shel adam mechaper. Why? Because just as the altar was the elevation of animals, that their source is in Tohu, and therefore this process of Akravas HaKorbanos was Mamshich Oros from Tohu, so too Shulchano Shel Adam Mechaper. The table of a person atones because by consuming food in a divine manner, we Mamshich Oros the Tohu. And from Oros the Tohu, Kapara, like from Keser, that's what we get Kapara from. Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim, that's from Tohu.